Welcome back, everybody. Here's the next step in the Vepr conversion series that we're going to be doing today. Today we're going to show you how to install a bullet guide so that way you can run standard AK-74 mags in your Vepr rifles. Or if you have a 47, same will apply for the 47. But right now we're going to step inside and get into the details. So here's what you get with the kit. You get the actual drill bit to drill through the trunnion itself. You get the bullet guide itself that's machined by the folks over there at Dinzag Arms, which is the kit that I'm using. You get your tap, which you see here, your screw, and your Allen wrench to put it in, your bolt I should say, and your Allen wrench to put it in. So a couple things you're going to need outside of that. You're going to need a hammer, which we'll show you why in a second. You're going to need some way to turn that tap, a punch, and a hammer, and a drill bit. Other than that, you're probably going to be good to go. Actually, we also need some red Loctite. So without further ado, let's get into it. Before you even order your parts, one thing you want to do is identify which trunnion you have here. As you can see here, this one here is the round type. It is actually rounded. You can feel it with your finger and you can see it with your eyes. Some of them are going to have square types, so they're going to be flat on the bottom. So you just need to identify that and order the appropriate bullet guide. This one here is the round bullet guide for the Vepr. As you see here, this little lip right here is going to go underneath the barrel in there. And it's going to go just like that. Generally, you're going to want that centered. But you just want to line it up there and make sure that it's going to be in the right place, and I'll show you that here in a second as well. Here we have a standard AK-74 magazine in there, and we'll just show you what this bullet guide will actually be doing. When you go ahead and put that lip underneath there, what it's going to allow for is when this bullet is coming off, you'll see it goes up and directs it straight into the chamber, essentially, if you're actually doing this in real time. So that's what you want it to do. So you want to make sure it's centered where your mag is going to be, essentially. That way it feeds correctly from both sides. Once you have it lined up where you want to be, you're going to take your punch and go right in the center. I apologize if you guys can't actually see what I'm doing, but I had to move it out of the way a little bit so I'm not whacking the camera with my hammer. But you want to make sure that punch is centered up. You're just going to give it a few good whacks to make a nice indentation there. Once you've got the nice indentation in there, you're going to want to go ahead and put your drill bit in there that they give you. One thing you want to do is either use a drill press, which is probably optimal, but I'm going to use it without it just to show you guys that it can be done without it, just with a standard drill. And you want to make sure you're drilling straight down. And that's pretty much it. So you want to make sure its drill's not coming off and drill straight down. I always recommend you go slow on things like this. Once you've gone through that trunnion there, but don't go through the receiver as a side note. Once you've got through, you'll feel it when the drill bit goes through. And you just want to get those shavings out of there. Make sure they're not going to get in your barrel and cause any sort of damage. So just a little compressed air or air compressor. Make sure you really get them out of there. And just clean that up, and we're going to go ahead and tap it next. Now that the shavings are all out of there, you're going to take your tap, and what you want to do here on your tap is just make sure there's a good bit of oil on there. Any kind of oil will work. I think this is actually Mobil 1 synthetic, but any kind of good oil is going to work just fine. You want to make sure it's good and lubricated. In this case, the more the merrier. It's not going to hurt you to be over lubricated, but it will if you're under lubricated. And we're going to start the tap. And you want to make sure that your tap is going straight down, just like your hole was. You don't want to come in at an angle. You want to go straight down like we're doing here. And you're just going to turn it. Sorry, I'm kind of blocking you guys, but at some point you might need to sacrifice the camera angles to show you, to actually ensure I'm doing the work correctly. Kind of important. And you're going to keep turning it. And once you feel a little bit of pressure and tension, like we have here, you just want to back out. And you're going to keep doing that all the way down. So we started to feel some pressure. And back it out and keep going again until you start feeling that pressure. Sometimes it'll be right around one turn, sometimes a quarter turn. There's really no right answer, but you definitely don't want to keep pushing beyond where you feel that tension. There's no hard rule in terms of how many foot-pounds or anything like that. It's kind of just by feel. And you're going to keep doing that all the way through. Once you're all the way through, you should be able to spin it freely until you go down and hit the rear of the receiver. That way you know you're all the way through. Now you want to make sure you get all that oil out of there, so whatever kind of oil you got in there, go ahead and try to get as much of it out as you can, because if you have a bunch of oil in there, your thread locker is not going to do its job properly. At this point I'm going to apply some thread locker to the thread here. We are using red. I guess you could use blue if you were kind of unsure as to whether or not it's going to work. I've done a couple of these. I'm very Shouldn't say very sure, but pretty sure it's going to work just fine. Put a little bit of red on there, not a ton. And we're going to put the bullet guide back in. Put it in just like that. From this angle, one thing I want to point out too, I guess you guys can see it better now than when I was showing it earlier, is what you don't want. When you line up your bullet guide, like I was saying, you want it to be centered regardless. But these little lips right here on the barrel itself, you can see this one here, and there's one up here as well. You don't want the right side of this bullet guide to go past that. It's kind of a general rule. So if it looks like you're lining it up and it's going past that, I'd stop and give the guys over at Dinzag Arms a call and see what they recommend. But you don't generally want that to be anywhere past the right side. So now that we've got that all set up, we're going to put our screw in and tighten it down. And that will pretty much do it, guys. I would imagine most of you guys know how to put a screw in, so I won't bore you with the details of that. But you just want to tighten it down nice and snug, and with the red Loctite, you want to make sure that stuff sits for at least a 24-hour period to make sure it fully secures. Here's the finished product once it's all snugged up. At this point, you can see that, we'll take this here, when the rounds go up off the magazine, they're guided nicely right into the chamber, and they're going to pull out. And if you want to use the other side as well, just to kind of show you, they'll come off the other side of the magazine, same thing. See how it's getting guided right in that chamber there? Obviously under real speed, that's a lot faster, but you can see that's what we want it for, and seems to be working well. I hope at least some of y'all were helped out by this video. It helped take away some of the intimidation of doing this kind of work on your own might have for some of y'all. So if you guys have any questions, you can always post below in the comment section. You can also ask over at my Facebook page. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I hope to see you in the next video.